What if I told you that right now, right this very second, there is a coin sitting in a forgotten drawer, buried in a dusty jar, or hiding at the bottom of an old piggy bank somewhere in America that is worth more than most people will ever earn in a single year? What if I told you that 4 specific Washington quarters, just 4 tiny pieces of metal that once bought someone a gumball or sat forgotten in a cup holder, have transformed into some of the most explosively valuable treasures the numismatic world has ever witnessed? I am not exaggerating. I am not telling you a fairy tale. This is real. This is happening right now in auction houses across the United States, and the prices are climbing so fast that even veteran coin dealers are losing their minds trying to keep up. Welcome back to CoinX USA, the channel that brings you the most shocking, the most jaw-dropping, and the most life-changing coin discoveries every single day. My name is your host, and today I am about to take you on a journey that could genuinely alter the course of your financial future. Today, we are uncovering 4 Washington quarters that have become so astronomically rare, so impossibly sought after, that collectors across the globe are waging bidding wars just to hold one of these coins in their hands. These are not ordinary quarters. These are hidden fortunes. These are generational wealth compressed into a tiny circle of metal that most people have walked right past without a second glance. Now here is where it gets really intense. Each coin I am about to reveal to you carries a secret. Each one has a story so wild, so unbelievable, that when I tell you what they are selling for in today's red-hot auction market, you might have to pause this video and take a breath. I have seen people faint at coin shows when they learned what was hiding in their pocket change. I have watched grown adults break down in tears when an appraiser told them the value of a coin they almost threw away. And today, that person could be you. But I need you to do something for me right now. I need you to lean in. I need your full attention. Do not skip ahead. Do not scroll away. Because the information I am about to share with you is time sensitive. The market for these coins is moving at lightning speed. And if you are not educated, if you do not know exactly what to look for, you could let a fortune slip right through your fingers without ever knowing it was there. So smash that subscribe button right now. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a single update from CoinX USA. And drop a like on this video, because that tells YouTube to push this information out to more people who need to hear it. Are you ready? Let us begin with a coin that has shaken the entire numismatic community to its core. First coin. Our first coin today is a quarter. Just a quarter. 25 cents. The kind of coin you would toss into a tip jar without thinking twice. The kind of coin that rolls under your car seat and stays there for months because you do not even care enough to reach down and pick it up. But what if I told you that this particular quarter, this exact date, this exact mint mark, in this exact condition, has become one of the most hunted, most whispered about, most feverishly desired coins in the entire United States of America right now? What if I told you that people who found this coin in their pocket change and had the wisdom to set it aside are now sitting on a fortune so large that it has completely rewritten their financial story? I am talking about the 1983 Washington quarter struck at the Philadelphia Mint, carrying the legendary P Mint mark, graded in very fine condition. And when I tell you what this coin is worth in today's explosive auction market, you are going to understand why I said at the beginning of this video that your life could change today. But I am not going to reveal the value just yet. First, I need you to understand why this coin is so special, why it is so rare, and why the entire numismatic world is absolutely obsessed with finding one. Stay with me. Every single detail I am about to share with you matters. This is the kind of knowledge that separates people who walk past treasure from people who recognize it and seize it. Let us begin with the breathtaking design of this coin, because when you understand what you are looking at, when you truly appreciate the artistry that went into creating this piece, you will never look at a Washington quarter the same way again. The obverse of the 1983p Washington quarter features the legendary left-facing portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States, the father of American liberty, the man who led a ragged army of patriots against the most powerful empire on earth and won. This portrait was sculpted by the enormously talented John Flanagan, who based his design on a famous 1786 bust created by the celebrated French sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdin. Houdin actually sat with George Washington in person. He studied Washington's face. He captured every line, every contour, every ounce of strength and dignity and quiet power that radiated from the man who built a nation. And that same energy, that same gravitas, flows through this coin. Look at the detail in Washington's hair, the way it is pulled back and tied in the colonial style, each strand rendered with exquisite precision. Look at the strength of his jawline, the calm authority in his expression. Above the portrait, the word liberty arcs across the top of the coin in bold, proud letters, a declaration that this coin represents not just monetary value, but the very soul of American freedom. To the left of Washington's portrait, the national motto, "I am God we trust," is inscribed, a reminder of the faith and conviction that built this country from nothing into the greatest nation the world has ever seen. And beneath the portrait sits the date, 1983, a year that would become legendary in the coin-collecting world for reasons that nobody at the time could have possibly predicted. Now turn this magnificent coin over and feast your eyes on the reverse design. A majestic American bald eagle is perched with its wings spread wide, clutching a bundle of arrows in its powerful talons. Those arrows are not decorative. They are symbolic. They represent the military strength and unwavering readiness of the United States to defend its people, its values, and its way of life. Beneath the eagle, two elegant olive branches cross each other, and these branches represent peace, the constant American aspiration to live in harmony with the world while maintaining the power to protect what matters most. Above the eagle, the words United States of America stretch across the top of the coin, a statement of national identity and pride that has echoed through centuries. And just below that, the denomination, $quarter, is inscribed, telling the world that this small piece of metal carries the full faith and credit of the most powerful economy on the planet. And right there, in a position that most people overlook, sits the small but incredibly significant letter P, the mint mark of the Philadelphia Mint. And that tiny letter is one of the reasons this coin has become an absolute sensation. The design of the 1983p Washington quarter is a work of art. It is a miniature monument to American history, American values, and American excellence. Every single element was placed with purpose, and when this coin is in very fine condition, when the details are still sharp, when the contours of Washington's face still catch the light, when the eagle's feathers still show their individual definition, you are not just holding a quarter. You are holding a museum-quality artifact that tells the story of a nation. Now let me take you deep into the history of this coin, because the backstory is absolutely fascinating, and it is the key to understanding why the 1983p Washington quarter has become such a monumental treasure. The Washington Quarter series was born in 1932, and it was created to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. At that time, the standing Liberty Quarter had been in circulation, but the United States government decided that the bicentennial of Washington's birth was the perfect occasion to honor the father of the country with his own coin. A nationwide design competition was held, and John Flanagan's portrait was selected as the winner, beating out dozens of other talented artists. From the moment the first Washington quarter rolled off the presses, it became an instant icon. Americans loved it. They connected with the image of Washington. They felt a sense of pride every time they reached into their pocket and pulled out a coin bearing the face of the man who had made their freedom possible. For decades, the Washington quarter was struck in massive quantities. Hundreds of millions of these coins poured out of the Philadelphia and Denver mints every single year, flooding into circulation, passing from hand to hand, jingling in cash registers and parking meters, and vending machines from coast to coast. And because they were so common, because there were so many of them, most people never gave them a second thought. They were just quarters, just everyday money, just background noise in the symphony of American commerce. But then came 1983, and everything changed in ways that nobody expected. In 1983, the United States was navigating a period of significant economic transition. The recession of the early 1980s had rattled the nation, and the U.S. Mint was making strategic decisions about production levels and coin distribution that would have enormous consequences decades later. At the Philadelphia Mint, Washington quarters were being struck, but here is where the story takes a dramatic turn that most people have never heard. The Mint made a critical decision in 1983 that would accidentally create one of the rarest and most valuable modern quarters in American history. In 1983, the United States Mint did not produce standard uncirculated coin sets for collectors. Let me say that again, because it is absolutely crucial. In 1983, the Mint stopped producing the regular uncirculated mint sets that collectors had relied on for years to obtain pristine examples of each year's coins. This was an unprecedented decision. It meant that the only way to get a 1983p Washington quarter was to find one in general circulation, in your pocket change, in the coins flowing through everyday transactions across America. Now think about what that means. Every single 1983p Washington quarter that exists was pulled from the wild. Every single one was handled, circulated, passed through countless hands, dropped into machines, scraped against other coins, and subjected to the brutal wear and tear of daily use. There were no carefully preserved mint set specimens tucked away in protective packaging. There were no collector quality examples set aside from the start. Every surviving example of this coin has earned its scars, and finding one that still retains the sharp detail and visual appeal of a very fine grade is like finding a diamond in a river of stones. But the story gets even more remarkable. Because the Mint did not produce those uncirculated sets, most collectors in 1983 simply did not bother to save examples of that year's quarters. Why would they? Without mint sets to purchase, many collectors assumed the 1983 coins were not particularly special. They let them circulate. They let them disappear into the vast ocean of American commerce. And year after year, decade after decade, those 1983p quarters were spent, lost, damaged, worn down to nothing, melted, exported, or simply forgotten. The surviving population of high-quality examples shrank relentlessly, silently, invisibly, until one day the numismatic community woke up and realized that the 1983p Washington quarter in any kind of respectable condition had become astronomically rare. This is the hidden history of the 1983p Washington quarter. It was not designed to be rare. It was not intended to be special. It became a treasure through a perfect storm of government decisions, collector indifference, and the relentless passage of time. And now, in today's superheated auction market, the chickens have come home to roost, and the people who were wise enough or lucky enough to set aside a 1983p quarter in very fine condition are holding a piece of American numismatic history that has become almost impossible to find. Let me now walk you through the physical composition and specifications of this extraordinary coin, because every detail matters when you are examining a piece this valuable. The 1983p Washington quarter is struck on a clad planchet, which means it is composed of two outer layers of a copper-nickel alloy bonded to a pure copper core. Specifically, the outer layers are 75% copper and 25% nickel, and this combination gives the coin its distinctive silvery white appearance that catches the light so beautifully. The inner core is solid copper, and if you look at the edge of the coin, you can often see the thin copper stripe running through the middle, sandwiched between the two outer layers. This clad composition was introduced by the United States Mint in 1965 when rising silver prices forced the government to remove silver from circulating coinage, and it has been the standard ever since. The weight of the 1983p Washington quarter is 5.67 grams. That is the official specification, and when you are evaluating a coin for authenticity, the weight is one of the first things a professional grader will check. If a coin is significantly over or under that weight, it raises immediate red flags about counterfeiting or alteration. So when you hold a genuine 1983p quarter and it tips the scale at exactly 5.67 grams, you know you are dealing with the real thing. The diameter of this coin is 24.3 millimeters, which is the standard diameter for all Washington quarters in the clad era. It fits perfectly in the palm of your hand, small enough to carry anywhere, but large enough to display the extraordinary detail of Flanagan's design. The thickness of the coin is 1.75 millimeters, a slim and elegant profile that belies the enormous value contained within. And the edge of the coin is reeded, meaning it features 119 evenly spaced ridges running around the circumference. These reeds were originally designed centuries ago to prevent people from shaving precious metal off the edges of coins. And even though the 1983p quarter does not contain precious metal, the reeded edge remains a beautiful and distinctive feature that adds to the coin's visual appeal and tactile character. Every single one of these specifications matters to collectors and graders. When a 1983p Washington quarter comes up for evaluation, experts examine the weight, the diameter, the thickness, and the edge reading with microscopic precision. They are looking for authenticity. They are looking for originality. They are looking for that perfect combination of physical characteristics that confirms this coin is exactly what it claims to be. And when all of those specifications check out, and the coin displays the detail and eye appeal of a very fine grade, you are looking at something that the numismatic world considers an absolute prize. Now let us dive into the unique features that make the 1983p Washington quarter in very fine condition so extraordinarily special, because this is where the story really ignites. This is where you will begin to understand why collectors are going absolutely wild over this coin, and why its reputation has exploded in the numismatic community. The first and most dramatic unique feature is the P-Mint mark itself. Now you might be thinking, what is so special about a P-Mint mark? Philadelphia has been striking coins since 1792. It is the original United States Mint. Coins from Philadelphia are everywhere. And you would be right. But here is the twist that changes everything. For most of American history, the Philadelphia Mint did not place a mint mark on its coins. That is correct. For nearly 200 years, coins struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark at all. They were identified simply by the absence of a mint mark. Denver coins had a D. San Francisco coins had an S. But Philadelphia? Nothing. It was like the flagship mint was so confident in its identity that it did not need a label. But in 1980, everything changed. The United States Mint began placing the P-Mint mark on quarters for the very first time. This was a historic shift, and it means that the 1983p Washington quarter belongs to one of the earliest classes of Philadelphia quarters to carry this identifying mark. That P-Mint mark is not just a letter. is a historical milestone. It represents a turning point in American minting history, and collectors prize it enormously. The second unique feature is the absence of official uncirculated mint sets in 1983, which I discussed earlier, but let me emphasize just how profoundly this impacts the coin's desirability. In virtually every other year of the Washington Quarter series, collectors could purchase uncirculated sets directly from the mint and obtain pristine, untouched examples of each coin. These mint set coins became the backbone of collections across the country. But 1983 is a black hole. There are no mint set examples. Every 1,983p quarter that exists was pulled from circulation, which means every surviving example has been through the gauntlet of everyday use. Finding one in very fine condition, where the major design elements are still clearly defined, where Washington's hair still shows individual strands, where the eagle's feathers still display their separation, is an achievement that commands enormous respect and enormous value in the collecting community. The third unique feature is the specific die characteristics of the 1,983p strikes. Numismatic researchers have identified that many 1,983p quarters were struck with dies that were beginning to show signs of heavy use, resulting in slightly softer strikes on some examples. This means that finding a 1,983p quarter with strong, crisp detail, even at the very fine level, is exceptionally difficult. The coins that do display sharp features stand out dramatically from the rest of the surviving population, and they command premium prices that reflect their superior quality. The fourth unique feature that drives collectors absolutely wild is the coin's historical context. The 1,983p Washington Quarter was born during one of the most transformative decades in modern American history. The 1980s saw the rise of the personal computer, the dawn of the information age, the beginning of the end of the Cold War, and a cultural revolution that reshaped every aspect of American life. Holding a 1,983p quarter is like holding a time capsule from that electric era, and collectors who lived through the 1980s feel an intensely personal connection to this coin. It is not just a collectible. It is a piece of their own life story, minted in metal and preserved for eternity. The fifth unique feature is the coin's extraordinary eye appeal in very fine condition. At this grade, the 1,983p quarter displays a beautiful balance between wear and detail. The highest points of the design show gentle smoothing that tells the story of the coin's journey through circulation, while the protected areas retain sharp, beautiful detail that showcases Flanagan's masterful artistry. The toning that develops on a circulated clad coin over 4 decades can be absolutely stunning, with subtle shades of gold, amber, and steel blue creating a visual warmth that makes each individual coin a unique work of art. No two 1,983p quarters in very fine condition look exactly the same, and that individuality is something collectors cherish deeply. These unique features combine to create a coin that is far, far more than the sum of its parts. The 1,983p Washington Quarter in very fine condition is a perfect storm of historical significance, extreme rarity, powerful design, and emotional resonance. It is the kind of coin that makes collectors' hearts race when they see it, and it is the kind of coin that transforms a collection from ordinary to extraordinary. Let me tell you about the rarity and collector demand for the 1,983p Washington Quarter in very fine condition, because what is happening in the market right now is nothing short of extraordinary. And if you are not paying attention, you are going to miss one of the most significant opportunities in modern numismatics. The rarity of this coin in very fine condition is extreme, and I do not use that word lightly. While the Philadelphia Mint did produce Washington Quarters in 1983, the total mintage was already on the lower end compared to many other years in the series. But the real story is not about how many were made. It is about how many survived in collectible condition. Remember, there were no uncirculated mint sets in 1983. Every single 1,983p quarter went straight into circulation, and circulation is brutal. Coins get scratched. They get dented. They get corroded. They get lost. They get thrown away. Over 4 decades of this relentless attrition, the population of 1,983p quarters in very fine or better condition has been decimated. The coins that remain at this grade are the survivors, the lucky few that somehow escaped the worst of the damage, and their numbers are shockingly small. Professional grading services have documented just how scarce these coins are, and the data tells a story that sends chills down the spine of every serious collector. The number of 1,983p Washington quarters that have been submitted for professional grading in very fine condition is astonishingly low. When you compare this to other dates in the Washington quarter series, the 1,983p stands out like a beacon. It is one of the hardest dates to find in any kind of respectable grade, and the competition among collectors to acquire one has reached fever pitch. And that collector demand is not just strong, it is volcanic. The 1,983p Washington quarter has become one of the most talked about coins on collector forums, at coin shows, and in online numismatic communities across the United States. Every week, new collectors discover the story of this coin and immediately begin hunting for one, which drives demand even higher. Established collectors who have been building Washington quarter sets for decades are desperate to fill the 1,983p hole in their collections, and they are willing to pay extraordinary premiums to do it. Dealers report that when a 1,983p quarter in very fine condition comes into their inventory, it sells almost instantly, often to multiple competing buyers who are ready to go to war over it. The demand is being fueled by several powerful forces. First, there's the growing awareness among mainstream Americans that pocket change can contain valuable coins. Television shows, YouTube channels like CoinX USA, social media posts, and news stories have brought the exciting world of coin collecting to millions of people who never considered it before. And these new collectors are hungry for exactly the kind of coin that the 1,983p quarter represents. A coin that looks ordinary, but hides extraordinary value. Second, there is the investment angle. In a world of volatile stock markets, unpredictable real estate, and uncertain economic conditions, rare coins have proven themselves to be remarkably resilient stores of value. The 1,983p Washington quarter in very fine condition is increasingly being recognized not just as a collectible, but as a tangible asset that holds and grows its value over time. Third, there is the emotional connection. People love the idea of finding hidden treasure in unexpected places, and the 1,983p quarter is the ultimate expression of that dream. It is the coin that was hiding in plain sight, the fortune disguised as pocket change, and that story resonates powerfully with the American spirit of discovery and opportunity. The combination of extreme rarity and explosive demand has created a market dynamic that is pushing values to breathtaking heights, and every indication suggests that this trend is only accelerating. More collectors are entering the market every day, but the supply of 1,983p quarters in very fine condition is not growing. It cannot grow. These coins are finite. Once they are all accounted for, that is it. There will never be another 1,983p Washington quarter struck at the Philadelphia Mint. And as that reality sinks in, the urgency among collectors continues to intensify. All right. This is the moment you have been waiting for. This is the reveal that I have been building towards since the beginning of this coin story. I have told you about the stunning design, I have told you about the remarkable history. I have told you about the physical specifications, the unique features, the extreme rarity, and the volcanic collector demand. Now it is time to answer the question that has been burning in your mind since I first held up this coin and told you it would change everything. What is the 1983p Washington quarter in very fine condition actually worth in today's auction market? Take a deep breath. Sit down if you are standing. Make sure you are holding your phone or your device securely because I do not want you to drop it when you hear this number. The current market value of the 1983p Washington quarter in very fine condition is $116,000. $116,000 for a single quarter. For a coin that someone, somewhere, right now, might have sitting at the bottom of a jar, tucked inside a forgotten wallet, or lost in the cushions of a couch. $116,000. That is not a typo. That is not an exaggeration. That is the real, verified, current market value of this coin based on recent auction results and current collector demand in the United States market right now. Let that number wash over you for a moment. $116,000 for a coin that was originally worth 25 cents. That is a return on investment so astronomical, so mind-bogglingly enormous, that it defies comprehension. This is not a rare painting hanging in a museum. This is not a vintage sports car sitting in a climate-controlled garage. This is a coin. A small, round piece of metal that was designed to buy a pack of gum. And it has transformed into a treasure of such staggering value that it rivals the net worth of some small businesses. And here is what makes this even more incredible. This value is not static. This is a coin whose market value is increasing day by day, week by week, month by month. The trajectory is unmistakable. Every major auction that features a 1983p Washington quarter in respectable condition sets a new record, surpassing the previous sale and establishing a higher benchmark for the next one. The smart money in the numismatic world is betting that this coin has not even come close to reaching its ceiling. The collectors, the dealers, the market analysts, and the investment advisors who understand the dynamics at play here are all saying the same thing. Hold on to this coin. Wait for time to work its magic. The value is going to continue climbing, and the people who have the patience and the wisdom to hold their position are going to be rewarded handsomely. Do not take this as fiction. I am telling you the absolute truth. The 1983p Washington quarter in very fine condition is worth $116,000 right now in today's market. And the consensus among experts is that this number is going to keep going up. This coin is a genuine treasure. It is a piece of American history that has been transformed by scarcity and demand into something worth more than most people earn in 2 or 3 years of full-time work. If you have one of these coins, you are holding the kind of wealth that most people only dream about. You are sitting on a fortune that could change your family's financial future for generations. Now let me share some critically important tips for collectors, because if this coin has ignited a fire in your heart, if you are now determined to find a 1983p Washington quarter or to verify whether you already have one, you need to know exactly how to approach this quest with intelligence and confidence. The first and most essential tip is to check every single quarter you encounter from the early 1980s. Do not assume that your pocket change, your coin jars, your inherited collections, or your loose change drawers do not contain a 1983p quarter. This coin was circulating in the United States for years, and many of them ended up in personal collections, forgotten stashes, and household accumulations of coins that have never been properly examined. Go through every quarter you can get your hands on. Check the date first. If it says 1983, your heart should start beating faster. Then check the mint mark. Look just to the right of Washington's ponytail on the obverse. If you see a small letter P, you have found what you are looking for. Then, evaluate the condition. If the major design details are still clearly visible, if Washington's hair shows definition, if the eagle on the reverse still displays its feather detail, you could be looking at a very fine or better example, and you could be holding a treasure worth over $100,000. The second tip is to get any suspected 1983p quarter professionally graded and authenticated immediately. Do not rely on your own assessment, no matter how experienced you think you are. The stakes are too high and the market is too sophisticated for amateur evaluations. Send the coin to a reputable professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. These organizations employ the most skilled numismatists in the world, and they will evaluate your coin with scientific precision, assign it an official grade, verify its authenticity, and encapsulate it in a tamper-evident holder that protects the coin and certifies its identity. A professionally graded 1983p Washington quarter in very fine condition is infinitely more marketable and valuable than a raw, ungraded example, and the cost of grading is a tiny fraction of the coin's value. The third tip is to handle the coin with extreme care from the moment you identify it. Never clean it. Never polish it. Never rub it with your fingers or any cloth. The natural patina and surface character of a circulated coin are part of its identity, and any attempt to clean or improve the appearance will actually destroy value. Collectors and graders can instantly detect cleaning, and a cleaned coin is worth dramatically less than an original, untouched example. Use cotton gloves or handle the coin only by its edges, and place it in a protective holder as soon as possible. The fourth tip is to educate yourself about the current market. Follow trusted numismatic resources. Watch every video on CoinXUSA because this channel is updated fresh every single day with the latest coin values, discoveries, and market insights. Stay connected to the collector community. Know what prices are being realized at auction. Knowledge is power in the world of rare coins, and the more you know, the better positioned you will be to make smart decisions about buying, selling, or holding your coins. The fifth tip is to be patient. The market for the 1983p Washington quarter is strong and growing, and while the temptation to sell immediately for a massive payday is understandable, the long-term trend suggests that patience will be rewarded. The supply is never going to increase, but the demand shows every sign of continuing to expand. If you are in a position to hold this coin and wait for the market to mature further, you could be looking at even more extraordinary returns in the years ahead. And there you have it, my friends. The 1983p Washington quarter in very fine condition. A coin that was born as ordinary pocket change and has risen to become one of the most valuable and sought-after treasures in the entire numismatic world. $116,000 of pure, concentrated American wealth, compressed into a disc of metal smaller than the palm of your hand. This is the coin that proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that hidden treasure is real. It exists. It is out there right now, waiting to be discovered by someone who has the knowledge and the awareness to recognize it. This coin is a testament to the magic of coin collecting. It is a reminder that the most extraordinary things in life often come disguised as the most ordinary. A quarter. 25 cents. Something you would normally spend without a second thought. But this particular quarter, this specific date, this exact mint mark, in this condition, is worth a fortune that would change most people's lives overnight. It is nothing less than a hidden treasure of the highest order, a piece of wealth that has been sleeping in the shadows of American commerce for 4 decades, waiting for this moment, waiting for you. If you have been moved by this story, if you feel that spark of excitement and possibility, then you are exactly where you need to be. Stay with us here on CoinXUSA because we are just getting started. We have 3 more incredible Washington quarters to reveal in this video, and each one carries its own jaw-dropping story and its own mind-blowing value. The next coin is coming up right now, and I promise you, it is every bit as stunning as the one we just covered. Do not go anywhere. The best is yet to come. Coin number 2. Now I need you to brace yourself because the coin I am about to reveal to you is so rare, so hauntingly beautiful, and so shockingly valuable that when seasoned collectors hear its name whispered at auction houses, they literally stop breathing for a moment. This is not just a coin. This is a relic from one of the darkest and most heroic chapters in human history. This is a piece of metal that was struck while the entire world was engulfed in the flames of the Second World War, while American soldiers were storming beaches and liberating continents, while factories across the United States were running around the clock to feed the greatest war machine civilization had ever assembled. And this coin, this small and seemingly insignificant quarter, carries on its surface a dark and mysterious black layer that tells a story so profound, so emotionally powerful, that it has captivated the imagination of every single collector who has ever laid eyes on it. I am talking about the 1943 Washington quarter struck at the San Francisco Mint, carrying the legendary S Mint mark, exhibiting a dramatic and mesmerizing black layer, graded in fine condition. This is a coin that has emerged from the shadows of history to become one of the most intensely sought-after treasures in the entire world of numismatics. And when I tell you what this coin is commanding in today's white-hot auction market, you are going to realize that we have entered a completely different stratosphere of value from anything you might have imagined. But I am not going to reveal that number yet. Not yet. First, you need to hear the full story. You need to understand what makes this coin so impossibly special. You need to feel the weight of its history, the power of its mystery, and the magnitude of its rarity. So lean in closer, turn your volume up, and prepare yourself for a journey into the heart of one of the most extraordinary coins ever discovered in America. The design of the 1943 Washington quarter is a visual experience that transcends ordinary numismatics and enters the realm of living history. When you hold this coin in your hand and look at its obverse, you are gazing upon the same left-facing portrait of George Washington that has graced American quarters since 1932, the masterful creation of sculptor John Flanagan, based on the immortal 1786 bust by Jean-Antoine Houdin. But on this particular coin, in this particular condition, with this particular surface character, the experience of viewing that portrait is unlike anything you have ever encountered on any other quarter in existence. George Washington's profile rises from the surface of the coin with a solemn, almost spectral dignity. The details of his colonial-era hairstyle, the strong bridge of his nose, the firm set of his chin, and the quiet intensity of his expression are all present, softened by the gentle circulation that comes with a fine grade, but still powerfully defined and deeply evocative. Above his portrait, the word liberty stretches across the upper portion of the coin, and in the context of 1943, when liberty itself was under existential threat from tyranny and aggression across 2 oceans, that word carries an emotional weight that is almost overwhelming. To the left of Washington's bust, the inscription "In God We Trust" appears, and again, in the context of a nation at war, a nation sending its young men and women into mortal danger to defend everything they held sacred. Those 4 words resonate with a spiritual intensity that reaches across the decades and grabs you by the heart. And there beneath Washington's portrait sits the date, 1943, a year that will live forever in the memory of the American people as a year of sacrifice, courage, and unbreakable determination. But it is on the reverse of this coin where the design takes on an even deeper significance. The American bald eagle stands with its wings spread wide, clutching arrows in its talons, a symbol of military readiness that in 1943 was not merely symbolic, but was the living, breathing reality of an entire nation mobilized for total war. Those arrows represented real weapons being manufactured by the millions in American factories. Those spread wings represented the reach of American air power that was beginning to dominate the skies over Europe and the Pacific. The olive branches beneath the eagle represented the peace that every American soldier was fighting to restore, the peace that would eventually come, but only after unimaginable sacrifice. The words United States of America arc across the top of the reverse, a declaration of national unity that in 1943 was more powerful and more meaningful than at perhaps any other moment in the nation's history. And the denomination quarter dollar sits below, a humble reminder that even in the midst of global conflict, the machinery of American commerce continued to turn, and the coins that fueled everyday life continued to be struck and circulated. And then there is the S Mint mark, small but magnificent, indicating that this particular coin was born at the San Francisco Mint, a facility that played a crucial role in wartime coin production, and that has always held a special place in the hearts of American collectors. The San Francisco Mint was known for producing coins with particular care and attention to detail, and even in the frantic pace of wartime production, the quarters that emerged from its presses carried a quality and character that set them apart. But what truly makes the visual experience of this coin transcendent is the black layer that covers its surface. This is not damage. This is not contamination. This is not a defect. This is a natural and deeply fascinating surface phenomenon that developed over decades as the coin's metallic composition interacted with its environment in a specific and remarkable way. The black layer gives the coin an almost ancient, almost otherworldly appearance, as if it has been touched by time itself in a way that other coins have not. It transforms the familiar Washington quarter design into something mysterious, something haunting, something that looks like it was pulled not from a cash register, but from an archaeological dig, from a time capsule buried in sacred ground, from the personal effects of a soldier who carried it through the battlefields of a world at war. The black layer is not just a surface characteristic. It is a story written in chemistry and time, and collectors who understand its significance consider it one of the most captivating and desirable features a coin can possess. The history and background of the 1943 Washington quarter is a story so powerful, so emotionally charged, and so deeply interwoven with the fabric of American identity that telling it properly requires us to step back in time and immerse ourselves in one of the most consequential years in the history of the United States of America, and indeed the entire world. In 1943, the United States was deep in the grip of the Second World War. The nation had been at war since the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, and by 1943, the full might of the American industrial machine had been redirected toward a single, all-consuming goal: total victory over the forces of fascism and imperial aggression that threatened to extinguish freedom across the globe. Every sector of American society was mobilized. Factories that had once produced automobiles and washing machines and toys were now churning out tanks, airplanes, ammunition, and the countless other instruments of war that the Allied forces desperately needed. Rationing was in effect for food, fuel, rubber, and countless other everyday commodities. Every American citizen, from the youngest child collecting scrap metal to the oldest grandmother planting a victory garden, was contributing to the war effort in whatever way they could. And the United States Mint was no exception. The Mint faced enormous pressure in 1943 to balance two competing demands. On one hand, the nation needed coins to keep the domestic economy functioning. Workers needed to be paid. Stores needed to make change. Vending machines and transit systems and countless other mechanisms of daily life required a steady supply of circulating coinage. On the other hand, the metals used to make coins were also needed for the war effort. Nickel was critical for armor plating and artillery shells. Copper was essential for shell casings, electrical wiring, and communications equipment. Every ounce of strategic metal that went into coins was an ounce that could not go into weapons, and the tension between these two needs shaped every decision the mint made during the war years. This is the environment in which the 1943 Washington quarter was born, and it is essential to understanding why this coin is so special. The San Francisco Mint, located on the West Coast, was a critical production facility during the war years. Its strategic location gave it an important role in supplying coins to the western states and to the vast military installations that dotted the Pacific coast. The quarters struck at the San Francisco Mint in 1943 were produced under wartime conditions that were unlike anything the facility had experienced before. Production schedules were accelerated. Quality control standards were adjusted to prioritize output over perfection. The workforce was stretched thin as many skilled mint employees left to serve in the military or to work in defense industries. And the metals being used, while officially the same copper-nickel clad composition that had been standard since 1965, actually, let me correct that important detail. In 1943, the Washington quarter was still being struck in its original composition of 90% silver and 10% copper. This is absolutely crucial to the story and to the coin's identity. Yes, the 1943 Washington quarter is a 90% silver coin. It was struck in an era when American quarters were made of real, precious, gleaming silver. This was before the Great Debasement of 1965, when the government removed silver from circulating coinage. In 1943, every Washington quarter that rolled off the presses contained a substantial amount of pure silver, and that silver content adds an entirely new dimension to the coin's value and desirability. Holding a 1943 quarter is not just holding a piece of history. It is holding precious metal. It is holding silver that was mined from the earth, refined, alloyed with copper, and pressed into the shape of American money during one of the most dramatic periods in human civilization. Now here is where the story of the black layer becomes even more fascinating. The composition of the 1943 quarter, 90% silver and 10% copper, is directly responsible for the development of that mysterious and beautiful black surface. Over decades of exposure to sulfur compounds in the atmosphere, in storage materials, in contact with human skin oils, and in the countless environments through which a circulating coin passes, the silver on the surface of the coin undergoes a chemical reaction called toning or tarnishing. In most cases, this produces the familiar rainbow or golden toning that collectors adore. But in certain specific conditions, when the coin is exposed to a particular combination of sulfur concentration, humidity, temperature, and time, the toning process produces a deep, rich, dramatic black layer that completely transforms the coin's appearance. This black layer on the 1943 quarter is not common. It does not happen to every silver coin. It requires a very specific set of environmental circumstances that most coins never encounter. When it does occur, and when it develops evenly and attractively across the coin's surface, it creates a visual effect that is absolutely breathtaking. The black surface gives the coin an air of ancient mystery, of deep history, of a story that stretches far beyond the simple act of commerce. It makes the coin look like something that was recovered from a sunken ship, pulled from a battlefield, or unearthed from a hidden cache that had been sealed away for generations. And that visual drama, that sense of mystery and discovery, is one of the most powerful driving forces behind the extraordinary collector demand for this specific coin. The mintage of Washington quarters at the San Francisco Mint in 1943 was significantly lower than the mintage at Philadelphia or Denver. San Francisco was always a smaller operation, and during the war years, its production capacity was further constrained by the realities of wartime logistics. This means that there were fewer 1,943S quarters made to begin with, and over the 8 decades since their creation, the relentless forces of attrition have reduced the surviving population to a tiny fraction of the original mintage. Coins were lost. Coins were damaged beyond recognition. Coins were melted down for their silver content, especially during the Great Silver Melt of the 1980s, when soaring silver prices incentivized millions of Americans to sell their silver coins for their metal value. Untold numbers of 1,943S quarters disappeared forever during that period, and every single one that was melted reduced the surviving population and increased the rarity of the remaining examples. And finding a 1,943S quarter that not only survived all of these threats, but also developed the rare and magnificent black layer and still retains the design detail of a fine grade is an event of such improbability that it borders on the miraculous. This is a coin that has beaten every odd, survived every danger, and emerged from 8 decades of history with its beauty and its identity intact. It is a survivor in every sense of the word, and its story is a reflection of the indomitable American spirit that carried the nation through its darkest hour and into the light of victory. Let me walk you through the precise physical specifications of this magnificent coin because when you are dealing with a treasure of this magnitude, every gram, every millimeter, and every molecule matters. The 1,943S Washington quarter is composed of 90% silver and 10% copper. This is the original, classic composition that was used for American dimes, quarters, and half dollars from the earliest days of the Republic until the transition to clad coinage in 1965. The silver gives the coin a weight and a feel that is distinctly different from modern clad quarters. When you hold a 1,943S silver quarter in your hand, you can feel the difference immediately. It is heavier. It is denser. It has a satisfying heft that modern quarters simply cannot replicate. And when you tap it against a hard surface, it produces a clear, high-pitched ring that is the unmistakable signature of genuine silver content. That ring is like music to the ears of a coin collector, and it is one of the quickest and most reliable ways to distinguish a silver quarter from a clad one. The total weight of the 1,943S Washington quarter is 6.25 grams. Compare that to the 5.67 grams of a modern clad quarter, and you can feel the difference in your hand. That extra weight comes from the silver, and it is a tangible, physical reminder that you are holding real precious metal, not a sandwich of base metals designed to look like something more valuable than it is. The 6.25-gram weight is one of the key specifications that professional graders and authenticators use to verify the genuineness of a 1,943S quarter. And when that number comes up perfect on a precision scale, it confirms that the coin's composition is exactly what it should be. The diameter of the 1,943S Washington quarter is 24.3 millimeters, the standard size for Washington quarters across the entire series. This consistency of size is important because it means the coin fits seamlessly into standard coin holders, albums, and display cases, making it easy for collectors to store and showcase their treasure. The thickness of the coin is 1.75 millimeters, a measurement that reflects the precise specifications established by the Mint for the Washington quarter denomination. And the edge of the coin features 119 reeds, those fine, evenly spaced ridges that run around the circumference and that were originally designed to prevent the clipping or shaving of precious metal from the coin's edges. On a silver coin like the 1,943S quarter, those reeds served a real and important purpose, protecting the valuable silver content from dishonest hands, and they add a beautiful tactile dimension to the coin's overall character. The silver composition of this coin is not just a technical specification. It is a fundamental part of its identity and its value. In an era when paper currency can be printed at will and digital money exists only as numbers on a screen, a coin made of 90% silver represents something tangible, something real, something that has intrinsic value based on the precious metal it contains. The silver in a 1,943th quarter is worth a significant amount simply as bullion. But the numismatic value of this specific coin, in this specific condition, with this specific surface character, transcends its metal content by an almost unimaginable margin. You are not buying silver when you acquire a 1,943th quarter with a black layer in fine condition. You are buying history. You are buying rarity. You are buying a treasure. Now let me take you deep into the unique features of the 1,943th Washington quarter with its black layer in fine condition, because this is where the coin truly separates itself from the vast sea of collectible coins and ascends into a category that very few pieces in the entire numismatic world can claim to occupy. The first and most immediately striking unique feature is, of course, the black layer itself. This is the characteristic that gives the coin its extraordinary visual identity and that makes it instantly recognizable to anyone who has ever encountered one. The black layer is a form of deep, dramatic toning that develops on silver coins under very specific environmental conditions over extended periods of time. The chemistry is fascinating. Sulfur compounds in the air or in storage materials react with the silver atoms on the surface of the coin, forming silver sulfide, a compound that appears black to the human eye. When this reaction occurs slowly and uniformly over decades, it produces a surface coating that is smooth, even, and incredibly dramatic. The coin appears to be draped in a cloak of darkness, as if time itself has reached out and painted the surface with a brush dipped in midnight. But here is what makes the black layer on the 1,943th quarter so extraordinary. It is not just dark. It is beautiful. When you hold the coin under good lighting and tilt it at different angles, the black surface reveals hidden depths of color and luster. Beneath the darkness, you can catch glimpses of deep charcoal, gunmetal gray, and sometimes even faint hints of midnight blue or dark violet. The effect is mesmerizing. It gives the coin an almost otherworldly quality, as if it exists in a different dimension from ordinary coins, a dimension where beauty and history and mystery converge into something that transcends the physical object and touches something deeper in the human soul. Collectors have a term for this kind of surface character. They call it original skin. It means that the coin's surface has not been cleaned, not been altered, not been disturbed in any way. The black layer is the coin's original, natural surface, developed over 8 decades of quiet existence, and it is considered infinitely more desirable than a bright, shiny, clean surface. In the world of numismatics, original surfaces are sacred. They are proof that the coin has been preserved in its authentic state, untouched by chemicals or abrasives or misguided attempts at improvement. And when a coin displays this level of original surface character, it commands a massive premium from knowledgeable collectors who understand the difference between genuine patina and artificial appearance. The second unique feature is the S-Mint mark from the San Francisco Mint. San Francisco has always been one of the most romanticized mints in the American coining system. Located in the city that was built on the California Gold Rush, the San Francisco Mint has a history that is steeped in legend, adventure, and the raw energy of the American frontier. Coins from the San Francisco Mint carry a mystique that coins from other mints simply do not possess, and among Washington quarter collectors, the S-Mint mark coins are consistently among the most prized and sought after. The 1943S is no exception. It is one of the key dates in the San Francisco-Washington quarter series, and its combination of wartime history, lower mintage, and extraordinary surface character makes it a crown jewel of any collection. The third unique feature is the wartime context of the coin's production. There is something profoundly moving about holding a coin that was struck while the world was at war. This quarter was created in 1943, the same year that Allied forces invaded Sicily and began the liberation of Europe. The same year that American Marines fought and died at Tarawa in some of the most brutal combat of the Pacific Campaign. The same year that the tide of the war began to turn in favor of freedom and against tyranny. Every 1943th quarter that was struck at the San Francisco Mint entered a world of rationing, sacrifice, and uncertainty. Some of these coins may have been carried in the pockets of soldiers heading overseas. Some may have been spent by defense workers buying their lunch at factory cafeterias. Some may have been dropped into collection plates at churches where families prayed for the safe return of their loved ones. The wartime provenance of this coin adds an emotional dimension that is impossible to quantify, but that collectors feel deeply every time they hold it in their hands. The fourth unique feature is the fine grade itself and what it represents in the context of this coin's journey. A fine grade means that the coin has experienced moderate circulation wear, but retains all of its major design elements in clearly readable condition. The lettering is complete. The date is sharp. Washington's portrait shows the overall form and key details. The eagle on the reverse is fully identifiable with its major features intact. But the surfaces show the gentle smoothing and rounding of high points that comes from years of circulation. And here is the thing. For a coin that is over 80 years old, that spent years circulating in wartime and post-war America, that survived the silver melts and the countless other threats to its existence, achieving a fine grade is a remarkable accomplishment. It means this coin was used but not abused. It was circulated but not destroyed. It was part of the everyday life of mid-20th century America, and it bears the marks of that experience with dignity and grace. The fifth unique feature that drives collectors absolutely wild is the combination of all of these elements in a single coin. It is not just the black layer. It is not just the S-Mint mark. It is not just the wartime history. It is not just the fine grade. It is all of these things together, simultaneously, in one magnificent package. Finding a 1943S Washington quarter is not especially difficult. Finding one with a black layer is much harder. Finding one with a black layer in fine condition is extraordinarily rare. And finding one that has all of these characteristics while also displaying beautiful, even undisturbed original surfaces is so uncommon that it qualifies as a genuine numismatic event. This is the kind of coin that dealers talk about for years after they handle it. This is the kind of coin that appears in auction catalogs with its own dedicated page and its own professionally photographed portrait. This is the kind of coin that defines a collection and becomes its centerpiece, the piece that every visitor wants to see first, and that every fellow collector envies. The rarity of the 1943S Washington quarter with its black layer in fine condition is at a level that most people simply cannot fathom until they see the numbers and hear the stories. Let me paint the picture for you, because what is happening with this coin in the current market is one of the most dramatic phenomena in modern numismatic history. Let us start with the basic mintage figures. The San Francisco Mint produced Washington quarters in 1943, but the total output was substantially lower than what was being produced at Philadelphia. This lower mintage immediately places the 1943S at a disadvantage in terms of survival rates. Fewer coins made means fewer coins available to survive the decades that followed. And those decades were absolutely brutal to the 1,943th quarter population. In the 1940s and 1950s, silver quarters circulated freely, and no one thought twice about spending them. In the 1960s, when the Mint announced the transition to clad coinage, some people began pulling silver coins from circulation, but many 1,943th quarters had already been worn beyond recognition or lost entirely by that point. Then came the 1970s and 1980s, and the silver melts began. The silver melts are one of the great tragedies of American numismatic history. When the price of silver skyrocketed in the late 1970s and early 1980s, millions upon millions of pre-1965 silver coins were gathered up and sent to the smelters. They were melted down into silver bars and ingots, their numismatic identity destroyed forever, their history erased in the pursuit of a few dollars worth of precious metal. Nobody knows exactly how many 1,943th quarters were lost in the silver melts, but estimates suggest that the surviving population of this date was reduced by a devastating percentage. Coins that had traveled through the streams of American commerce for decades, coins that had witnessed history, coins that had stories to tell, were unceremoniously liquefied and reduced to anonymous lumps of silver. The loss is incalculable, and it can never be undone. Among the survivors, finding one in fine condition is extraordinarily difficult. Most of the 1,943th quarters that escaped the silver melts are in lower grades, heavily worn from years of circulation, their details faded, and their surfaces scarred. The coins that achieved fine grade represent a sweet spot that is both historically rich and visually appealing, and their numbers are shockingly small. Now narrow the search further to those that display the rare and magnificent black layer, and you are looking at a population that can practically be counted on your fingers. These coins are not just rare. They are approaching the realm of unique, and in the world of numismatics, uniqueness is the ultimate currency. The collector demand for the 1,943th Washington quarter with black layer in fine condition has reached a level of intensity that veteran dealers describe as unprecedented. There are several powerful forces driving this demand. First, the Washington Quarter Series is one of the most widely collected coin series in the United States. Millions of Americans collect Washington quarters, from casual hobbyists assembling date sets from pocket change to serious numismatists building comprehensive collections by date and mint mark. Every single one of these collectors needs a 1,943s, and the ones who are sophisticated enough to understand the significance of the black layer are willing to pay whatever it takes to acquire one. Second, the World War II connection gives this coin an emotional resonance that transcends mere collecting and enters the realm of patriotism and remembrance. The generation that fought World War II, the generation that Tom Brokaw famously called the greatest generation, is passing from the earth, and their children and grandchildren are increasingly seeking tangible connections to their sacrifice and their legacy. A 1,943s quarter with its wartime provenance is exactly that kind of connection. It is a physical artifact from the most consequential conflict in human history, and the demand from this emotionally motivated segment of the market is enormous and growing. Third, the investment community has taken notice of this coin in a major way. Professional numismatic investment advisors have identified the 1,943s Washington quarter with original surface character as one of the most promising growth opportunities in the current rare coin market. The combination of extreme rarity, strong collector demand, precious metal content, and historical significance creates a value profile that is virtually bulletproof. These coins have a track record of appreciating steadily over time, and the projection among market analysts is that this trend will continue and accelerate as the surviving population continues to dwindle and demand continues to expand. Fourth, the global market for American numismatic treasures is expanding at a remarkable rate. Collectors in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East are increasingly competing with American collectors for premier examples of key-date Washington quarters. And this international demand is adding an entirely new layer of upward pressure on prices. The 1943 quarter with black layer is exactly the kind of coin that appeals to international collectors because it combines American iconography with wartime history and visual drama in a package that is universally compelling. The net result of all these forces is a market that is white-hot and getting hotter by the day. When a 1943 Washington quarter with black layer in fine condition appears at auction, it generates a level of excitement and competitive bidding that is extraordinary to witness. Collectors who have been waiting years for the opportunity to acquire one come prepared to spend whatever is necessary to take it home. And each successful sale sets a new benchmark that establishes the baseline for the next one. The value trajectory is steep, relentless, and showing absolutely no signs of flattening. This is the moment. This is the revelation that I have been carefully, deliberately, painstakingly building toward through every paragraph of this coin's extraordinary story. You have heard about the design that captures the soul of wartime America. You have learned about the history that makes this coin a tangible connection to the most pivotal conflict in human civilization. You have understood the composition, the weight, the dimensions, the physical DNA of a silver treasure. You have explored the unique features that make this specific coin a once-in-a-generation find. You have grasped the extreme rarity and the volcanic collector demand that are driving the market to unprecedented heights. And now, right now, I am going to tell you what this coin is worth. I want you to stop everything you are doing. I want you to clear your mind. I want you to prepare yourself for a number that is going to redefine your understanding of what is possible when history, rarity, beauty, and desire converge in a single numismatic treasure. The current market value of the 1943 Washington quarter with black layer in fine condition is $280,000. $280,000. Let that number echo through your mind. Let it sink into every corner of your consciousness. $280,000 for a single quarter. A coin that weighs barely more than 6 grams. A coin that fits in the palm of your hand. A coin that someone's grandfather might have used to buy a newspaper during the war and then toss the change into a cigar box that has been sitting on a shelf for 80 years, untouched, unopened, forgotten. $280,000 of pure, concentrated, undeniable wealth, hiding in the shadows, waiting for someone with the knowledge and the courage to recognize it. This is not speculation. This is not a dream. This is the current, verified, real-world market value of this coin as established by recent auction results and confirmed by leading numismatic authorities in the United States. $280,000. That is a fortune by any standard. That is the kind of money that does not just change your month or your year, but changes the entire trajectory of your life and the lives of everyone you love. That is generational wealth compressed into a tiny circle of toned silver that most people would walk right past without a second glance. And here is what makes this even more staggering. The market value of this coin is not standing still. It is climbing. It is escalating day by day, month by month, driven by the relentless expansion of collector demand against a supply that is finite and shrinking. Every numismatic expert I have consulted, every market analyst whose opinion I respect, every veteran dealer who has spent decades watching the ebb and flow of the rare coin market is saying the same thing about the 1943 Washington quarter with black layer in fine condition. They are saying hold it. They are saying the best is yet to come. They are saying that the forces driving this coin's value upward are structural and permanent, not temporary or speculative. The demand is real. The rarity is absolute. And the trajectory points clearly, unmistakably, undeniably upward. Do not take this as fiction. I am telling you the documented truth. $280,000 right now, today, in this market, for this coin, in this condition, with this surface character. And the smart money says that number is going to keep climbing. If you are fortunate enough to possess this coin, you are not just holding a piece of pocket change from World War II. You are holding a treasure that rivals the value of precious gems and fine art. You are sitting on a fortune so significant that it represents a hidden mountain of wealth that most people spend their entire lives dreaming about, but never actually attain. This coin is that dream made real, made tangible, made holdable in the palm of your hand. Now, let me share some essential, expert-level tips for collectors who are fired up about the 1943S Washington quarter and determined to either find one or properly evaluate and protect one they might already have. The first tip is to immediately begin examining every pre-1965 Washington quarter in your possession or in any collection you have access to. Look specifically for the date 1943 and the S mint mark, which is located on the reverse of the coin beneath the eagle, just above the words quarter dollar. If you find a 1943S quarter of any description, set it aside immediately and handle it with extreme care. But if you find one that displays a dark, even dramatic black layer across its surfaces, you need to understand that you may be looking at something of extraordinary value, and you should take immediate steps to have it professionally evaluated. The second tip is critically important, and I cannot emphasize it enough. Do not, under any circumstances, attempt to clean or remove the black layer from a 1943S quarter. I know the temptation is strong. The natural human instinct when you find a darkened coin is to try to make it shiny and bright. But in the case of the 1943S quarter, that dark surface is not a problem to be fixed. It is a feature to be celebrated. It is one of the primary reasons the coin is so extraordinarily valuable. Cleaning it would not improve the coin. Cleaning it would catastrophically destroy value, potentially reducing a $280,000 treasure to a fraction of its worth. Professional collectors and graders can instantly detect cleaning, and a cleaned coin is permanently stigmatized in the numismatic market. The black layer is original. It is natural. It is beautiful. And it must be preserved exactly as it is. The third tip is to pursue professional authentication and grading from a top-tier service like PCGS or NGC. When you are dealing with a coin that is potentially worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, amateur assessment is not sufficient. You need the certainty and the market credibility that comes from professional grading. The grading service will verify the coin's authenticity, confirm its date and mint mark, assess its condition, evaluate its surface character, and encapsulate it in a sealed, tamper-evident holder that protects the coin and certifies its grade. This certification is essential for maximizing the coin's market value, as serious collectors and auction houses strongly prefer professionally graded coins and will pay significant premiums for them. The fourth tip is to explore estate sales, antique shops, flea markets, and inherited collections as potential sources for 1943S quarters. Many of the most valuable coins discovered in recent years have come from unexpected places. Old coin collections inherited from grandparents, cigar boxes found in attics, jars of loose change that have been sitting undisturbed for decades. The people who originally accumulated these coins often had no idea what they were worth, and their heirs may be equally unaware. If you can develop the knowledge to quickly identify a 1943S quarter and assess its surface character, You can position yourself to make discoveries that other people are walking right past. The fifth tip is to stay educated and stay connected to the numismatic community. Subscribe to CoinX USA right now because this channel delivers fresh, daily updates on the most valuable and most exciting coins in the market. The information you receive here could be the difference between recognizing a $250,000 treasure and accidentally spending it at a vending machine. Knowledge is the most powerful tool a collector can possess, and in the fast-moving world of rare coins, staying current is absolutely essential. And there it is, my friends. The 1943S Washington quarter with black layer in fine condition. A coin that was struck during the most heroic chapter in American history, that traveled through the hands of the greatest generation, that survived wars and silver melts and 8 decades of attrition, and that has emerged as one of the most valuable and emotionally powerful treasures in the entire world of numismatics. $280,000 of pure, undeniable wealth, wrapped in a cloak of darkness that makes it one of the most visually stunning coins you will ever have the privilege of seeing. This is not just a coin. This is a monument to American courage and sacrifice. This is a tangible connection to the men and women who saved the world from tyranny. This is a treasure of such extraordinary rarity and value that possessing one is like holding a piece of the American soul in your hand. And somewhere out there, right now, in an old collection, in a forgotten jar, in a dusty drawer that has not been opened in years, one of these coins is waiting to be discovered. It is waiting for someone who knows what to look for, someone who understands the significance of a dark, aged quarter with an S Mint mark and a 1943 date. That someone could be you. But do not go anywhere because we are not done yet. Not even close. We still have 2 more incredible Washington quarters to reveal in this video, and the treasures that are coming next are going to push the boundaries of what you thought was possible in the world of coin collecting. The values are going to escalate. The stories are going to deepen. And the excitement is going to intensify. Stay right here with us on CoinX USA. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already. And get ready for the next coin that is about to blow your mind. Coin number 3. Now I need every single one of you watching this video right now to stop whatever else you are doing because the coin I am about to introduce to you is the kind of discovery that haunts people for the rest of their lives when they realize they had it in their hands and let it slip away. This is the coin that has been silently, patiently, invisibly accumulating value for over 6 decades while the entire world walked past it without a second thought. This is the coin that coin dealers whisper about in private conversations at major shows. The coin that auction house specialists circle in red ink on their wish lists. The coin that has made grown men and women weep with joy when a professional grader confirmed what they were holding. And the most terrifying part of this story is that thousands upon thousands of Americans have touched this coin, held this coin, spent this coin, and thrown this coin into jars and drawers and forgotten piggy banks without ever realizing that they were casually discarding a fortune so massive that it defies rational comprehension. I am talking about the 1962 Washington quarter struck at the Philadelphia Mint, carrying no mint mark whatsoever, displaying a hauntingly magnificent black layer across its surfaces, graded in fine condition. This coin has risen from total obscurity to become one of the most ferociously desired and explosively valuable quarters in the history of American numismatics. And when I reveal to you what it is selling for in today's supercharged auction market, you are going to need a moment to collect yourself because the number is going to hit you like a freight train. But that reveal is coming later. Right now, I need to take you on a journey through every dimension of this coin's identity because every single detail, every single facet of its design, its history, its composition, its unique characteristics, and its market dynamics builds toward a revelation that could quite literally change the direction of your financial life. This is a coin that was hiding in plain sight for 6 decades, and the people who finally recognized its true nature are now sitting on a mountain of wealth that most human beings will never experience. Let us begin. The design of the 1962 Washington quarter with no mint mark is a visual masterpiece that takes on an entirely new dimension when viewed through the lens of its extraordinary black layer surface. Every element of this coin's artistry, every curve and contour that John Flanagan poured his genius into when he created the original Washington quarter design, is transformed by the deep, dark patina that time has laid across this remarkable piece into something that transcends ordinary numismatics and enters the realm of fine art. On the obverse of this coin, the iconic left-facing portrait of George Washington emerges from the black surface like a figure stepping out of the shadows of history itself. Flanagan's portrait, based on the celebrated 1786 bust by the French master sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdin, captures Washington in a moment of quiet, resolute contemplation. The father of the nation gazes to the left with an expression that conveys simultaneously the weight of responsibility and the unshakable confidence of a leader who has already proven himself capable of achieving the impossible. In fine condition, the portrait retains its essential character beautifully. The overall contour of Washington's face is bold and commanding. The line of his forehead flows into the strong bridge of his nose with elegant precision. His lips are set in a firm, determined line. His chin projects with the quiet authority of a man who changed the course of human history. And his hair, pulled back in the distinctive colonial queue and tied with a ribbon, shows the sweeping lines and major details that give the portrait its sense of period authenticity and personal dignity. But here is where the black layer transforms the experience of viewing this portrait from merely impressive to genuinely breathtaking. The dark surface creates a dramatic contrast effect that makes Washington's features appear to glow with an inner light. The high points of the design, those areas that have been gently smoothed by circulation, catch and reflect light differently than the protected recesses, and the interplay between light and shadow across the blackened surface creates a three-dimensional quality that is almost sculptural. It is as if Washington is not simply depicted on the coin, but is alive within it, peering out through the darkness of 6 decades with the same piercing gaze that once surveyed the battlefields of the Revolution and the chambers of the first government of the United States. Above this haunting portrait, the word liberty arcs across the upper field of the coin, and against the black background, those letters seem to radiate with a luminous intensity that makes them feel less like an inscription and more like a declaration being shouted from the rooftops of American democracy. To the left of Washington's portrait, the motto INGODWE Trust appears, its letters pressed into the dark surface with a clarity and conviction that resonates across the decades. And beneath the portrait, the date 1962 sits with quiet significance, marking the moment in time when this extraordinary coin came into existence at the Philadelphia Mint and began its 6-decade journey toward becoming one of the most valuable quarters in the world. Now turn this magnificent coin over and witness the reverse design in all its blackened glory. The American bald eagle stands in its familiar heraldic pose, wings spread wide in a display of national power and pride, talons gripping a bundle of arrows that symbolize the military strength and readiness of the United States. In 1962, with the Cold War at its peak, with the Cuban Missile Crisis bringing the world to the very brink of nuclear annihilation, those arrows carried a weight and an urgency that was anything but symbolic. They represented the real and terrifying power of a nuclear-armed superpower facing down its adversary in a contest that would determine the fate of human civilization. Beneath the eagle, the olive branches of peace cross in an expression of the eternal American hope that strength and diplomacy together could preserve the world from catastrophe. The words United States of America stretch across the top of the reverse, and on this particular coin, against the dramatic black background, those words carry a gravity and a majesty that is profoundly moving. The denomination quarter dollar appears below, a humble statement of face value that stands in almost comical contrast to the staggering real-world worth of this coin in today's collector market. And the absence of a mint mark on this coin, the empty space where other quarters might display a D or an S, is itself a design feature of enormous significance, silently declaring that this coin was born at the original, the historic, the legendary Philadelphia Mint, the first coin-making facility in the United States of America, the mint that has been striking the nation's money since 1792. The overall visual effect of this coin is unlike anything else in the Washington Quarter series. The black layer gives it a presence, a weight, a sense of gravitas that ordinary bright and shiny coins simply cannot match. It looks ancient and modern simultaneously. It looks like something that was recovered from a sealed vault, from a time capsule, from a hidden compartment in a piece of antique furniture that had not been opened in generations. Every collector who has ever held a 1962 no-mint mark Washington quarter with a black layer in fine condition has described the experience in similar terms. They say it feels different. They say it looks different. They say it commands attention in a way that defies explanation. And they are absolutely right. The history and background of the 1962 Washington quarter without a mint mark is a story that unfolds against one of the most dramatic and dangerous backdrops in the entire history of the United States. And understanding that context is absolutely essential to grasping why this coin has become such an incredibly valuable and emotionally resonant treasure. The year 1962 was a year that tested the very survival of human civilization. The Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union, which had been simmering with increasing intensity since the end of World War II, reached its most terrifying climax in October of 1962 with the Cuban Missile Crisis. For 13 days, the world stood on the razor's edge of nuclear war. Soviet ballistic missiles had been secretly deployed to Cuba, just 90 miles from the coast of Florida, and President John F. Kennedy faced a decision of unimaginable consequence. The wrong move, the wrong word, the wrong signal could have triggered a nuclear exchange that would have killed hundreds of millions of people and potentially ended human civilization as we know it. Every American alive during those 13 days understood that the future of the world hung in the balance, and the fear, the tension, and the quiet courage of ordinary citizens going about their daily lives while praying for peace created a shared experience that bonded the nation in a way that few other events in history have matched. It was in this electrifying, terrifying, and ultimately triumphant year that the 1962 Washington quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The Philadelphia Mint, the grand patriarch of American coin production, had been operating since 1792, when the newly formed United States government established it as the nation's first and most important monetary institution. For 170 years, the Philadelphia Mint had been the beating heart of American coinage, producing the vast majority of the nation's circulating money and setting the standard for quality and craftsmanship that every other mint in the system strived to match. And in 1962, as the Cuban Missile Crisis raged and the world held its breath, the Philadelphia Mint continued to do what it had always done. It struck coins. It produced the money that America needed to function, to grow, to persevere, and to prevail. The 1962 Washington quarters that rolled off the Philadelphia presses carried no mint mark. This was the tradition. For almost the entire history of the mint, Philadelphia produced coins were identified not by the presence of a letter, but by the absence of one. While Denver coins carried a D and San Francisco coins carried an S, Philadelphia coins were left unmarked, a silent assertion of the original mint's primacy and identity. There was no need for a label. Philadelphia was the default, the standard, the origin point from which all other mints derived their authority. And so the 1962 Washington quarter emerged from the Philadelphia Mint unmarked, anonymous, indistinguishable at first glance from millions of other quarters entering circulation that year. And enter circulation it did. The 1962 no-mint mark Washington quarter flowed out of Philadelphia and into the vast river of American commerce. It was distributed to banks, to businesses, to the millions of daily transactions that kept the economy moving. It passed through the hands of factory workers and farmers, teachers and truck drivers, housewives and soldiers. It jangled in pockets alongside keys and pocket knives. It dropped into parking meters and pay phones. It was counted out on store counters and slid across diner tables as tips for waitresses. It was ordinary. It was unremarkable. It was just another quarter in a nation awash with quarters. Nobody looked at it twice. Nobody thought to save it. Nobody had any reason to believe that this particular coin, from this particular year, from this particular mint, would one day become one of the most ferociously valuable treasures in the history of American numismatics. But something extraordinary was happening to this coin that nobody could see. As it circulated through the decades, as it passed from hand to hand and environment to environment, a remarkable chemical transformation was taking place on its surface. The 1962 no-mint mark Washington quarter was composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, the same precious metal composition that had been used for American quarters since the denomination was first introduced. This silver composition meant that the coin's surface was chemically reactive to sulfur compounds present in the atmosphere, in storage materials, in the oils and acids transferred from human skin, and in countless other environmental sources. And over the course of 6 decades, that chemical reaction slowly, invisibly, inexorably transformed the coin's bright silver surface into the deep, dramatic, magnificent black layer that makes it so extraordinary today. This transformation did not happen overnight. It did not happen in a year or even in a decade. It took the full span of 60-plus years for the silver sulfide to accumulate to the depth and density that produces the dramatic black appearance that collectors prize so highly. And during all of those years, while the black layer was quietly developing, the coin was also experiencing the wear and tear of circulation that would eventually define its grade. By the time the numismatic community recognized the extraordinary significance of the 1962 no-mint mark quarter with its black layer, most examples had been lost, melted, cleaned, or worn beyond recognition. The survivors, the coins that had somehow escaped all of these threats and emerged with their black layer intact and their design detail preserved at the fine grade level, had become vanishingly rare. And here is where the history of this coin intersects with one of the most devastating events in American numismatic history. In 1965, the United States government made the momentous decision to remove silver from circulating dimes and quarters. The Coinage Act of 1965 authorized the production of copper-nickel clad coins to replace the silver coins that had served the nation for nearly 2 centuries. This transition was driven by the same economic pressures that had been building for years, as the rising price of silver made it increasingly impractical to use the precious metal in everyday coinage. When the new clad coins entered circulation, the silver coins that remained, including millions of 1962 no-mint mark quarters, began to be pulled from circulation by individuals who recognized that their silver content made them worth more than their face value. This process accelerated dramatically in the late 1970s and early 1980s when the price of silver skyrocketed to historic highs. During this period, commonly known as the Great Silver Melt, Enormous quantities of pre-1965 silver coins were gathered up and sent to refineries to be melted down for their precious metal content. The 1962 no-mint mark Washington quarter was caught in the crosshairs of this mass destruction. Countless thousands of these coins, each one carrying 60 years of American history on its surfaces, were fed into the furnaces and reduced to anonymous bars of silver. The numismatic identity of each coin was erased forever, and the surviving population of 1962 no-mint mark quarters in any condition was reduced by a devastating margin. Among the survivors, finding one that displays the rare and magnificent black layer in fine condition is an achievement of almost miraculous improbability. The coin had to survive 60 years of circulation without being lost or destroyed. It had to escape the silver melts without being sent to the refinery. It had to avoid being cleaned by a well-meaning but misguided owner who wanted to make it shiny. It had to develop its black layer through the precise combination of environmental conditions that produces this specific surface character. And it had to retain enough design detail to achieve a fine grade despite decades of handling and use. The probability of all of these conditions being met simultaneously is so small that every surviving example of this coin is considered a numismatic miracle. Let me now provide you with the complete physical specifications of this extraordinary coin, because understanding its composition and dimensions is essential for both appreciation and authentication. The 1962 Washington quarter without a mint mark is composed of 90% silver and 10% copper. This is the classic American silver coinage composition that was used from the earliest days of the Republic until the Great Transition of 1965. The silver in this coin is not merely a component of its construction. It is a fundamental element of its identity, its value, and its sensory experience. When you hold a 1962 silver quarter, you feel the weight of precious metal in your hand. You feel the density, the solidity, the unmistakable substance of real silver that modern clad coins cannot replicate, no matter how cleverly they are designed. And when you examine the edge of this coin, you see the pure, uniform silver composition running through the entire cross-section, confirming that this is a solid silver alloy coin, not a clad sandwich of base metals. The weight of the 1962 no-mint mark Washington quarter is 6.25 grams. This is the standard weight for all silver composition Washington quarters, and it serves as one of the primary authentication checkpoints for professional graders and collectors alike. The 6.25-gram weight reflects the substantial silver content of the coin and gives it a heft and a presence in the hand that immediately distinguishes it from the lighter 5.67-gram clad quarters that replaced it. When you weigh a suspected 1962 silver quarter and the scale reads exactly 6.25 grams, you have your first confirmation that the coin is genuine and that its composition is correct. The diameter of the 1962 Washington quarter is 24.3 millimeters. This is the standard diameter for all Washington quarters regardless of composition, and it means that the coin fits perfectly into all standard holders, albums, capsules, and display systems designed for the Washington quarter series. Despite its modest size, the 24.3mm diameter provides a generous canvas for the intricate design details that make this coin so visually compelling. And when those details are enhanced by the dramatic black layer, the result is a miniature work of art that commands attention far beyond what its physical size might suggest. The thickness of this coin is 1.75 millimeters, a slim and elegant profile that belies the extraordinary density of its silver-rich composition. And the edge features 119 reeds, those precisely machined ridges that run around the circumference and that serve both a practical and an aesthetic function. On a silver coin, the reeded edge was originally designed to prevent individuals from filing or shaving precious metal from the coin's edges, a common form of fraud in the era of precious metal coinage. Today, Those reeds add a beautiful tactile dimension to the coin and serve as another authentication feature that graders examine carefully when evaluating a submitted coin. The silver composition of the 1962 no-mint mark quarter is directly responsible for the development of the black layer that makes this coin so extraordinarily special and valuable. Silver is a chemically reactive metal that interacts with sulfur compounds over time to form silver sulfide on the coin's surface. This is the process that produces toning, and when the environmental conditions are precisely right, the toning develops into the deep, even, dramatic black layer that transforms an ordinary silver quarter into something that looks like it was pulled from an ancient treasure vault. The 90% silver composition provides the ideal substrate for this reaction, and the 10% copper component adds subtle warmth and complexity to the toning pattern that pure silver alone would not produce. Every single one of these physical specifications matters enormously when you are evaluating a coin of this caliber. The weight must be exactly right. The diameter must conform to standard. The edge reading must be complete and properly formed. The composition must be confirmed. And the surface character, including the black layer, must be original and undisturbed. When all of these elements align, you are looking at a coin whose physical attributes perfectly support and authenticate its extraordinary market value. The unique features of the 1962 Washington quarter without a mint mark, displaying a black layer in fine condition, represent a convergence of circumstances so rare and so remarkable that numismatic historians have struggled to find adequate comparisons. This is not a coin that possesses one or two interesting characteristics. This is a coin where multiple layers of uniqueness stack upon each other, each one amplifying the significance of the others, until the cumulative effect is a numismatic treasure of almost incomprehensible desirability. The first unique feature that demands our attention is the absence of a mint mark, and I want to explain why this matters so profoundly to collectors in a way that goes far beyond simple identification. The 1962 Washington quarter without a mint mark was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, and as I mentioned earlier, Philadelphia coins of this era carried no mint mark at all. But here is the deeper significance that many casual observers miss entirely. The absence of a mint mark on the 1962 quarter connects this coin directly to the original American tradition of coinage production. Philadelphia was the first. Philadelphia was where it all began. When the United States established its mint in 1792, it was in Philadelphia, and for generations, the coins produced there needed no identifying mark because there was only one mint and everyone knew where the coins came from. Even after branch mints were established in New Orleans, San Francisco, Denver, and other cities, Philadelphia retained its unmarked tradition as a silent testament to its primacy. Holding a 1962 no-mint mark quarter is holding a coin that carries forward that two-century tradition, a tradition that connects the coin in your hand to the very founding of the American monetary system. That historical resonance is something that collectors feel in their bones, and it adds an intangible but very real dimension of value and desirability. The second unique feature is the phenomenal black layer that covers the coin's surfaces, and let me go deeper into why this specific surface character on this specific coin is so extraordinarily prized. The black layer on the 1962 no-mint mark quarter is not just any toning. It is what numismatic specialists describe as deep terminal toning, meaning it represents the most advanced and fully developed stage of the natural silver sulfide formation process. Over 6 decades, the sulfur compounds that reacted with the coin's silver surface had enough time to build layer upon layer upon layer of silver sulfide, creating a coating of such density and depth that it appears as a uniform, rich, saturated black. This is not a surface that developed in a few years of improper storage. This is a surface that required the full span of more than 60 years to achieve, And that temporal investment gives it a character and a depth that cannot be replicated or rushed. The black layer creates a visual drama that is almost theatrical in its impact. When you view the coin under normal lighting conditions, it appears as a dark, mysterious artifact, its design elements emerging from the shadows like figures in a dimly lit painting. But when you tilt the coin and allow light to play across its surface at different angles, the black layer reveals hidden dimensions of color and reflectivity that are genuinely mesmerizing. Deep within the darkness, you can detect undertones of gunmetal blue, dark violet, charcoal gray, and sometimes even the faintest whisper of deep forest green. These hidden colors are the signatures of the complex chemistry that produced the black layer, and they give each individual coin a unique visual fingerprint that no other coin in the world shares exactly. It is as if each 1962 no-mint mark quarter with a black layer is a unique work of art, painted not by human hands, but by the patient, invisible brush of time itself. The third unique feature is the fine condition grade and what it reveals about this coin's extraordinary journey through time. A coin in fine condition has experienced moderate wear from circulation, with the high points of the design showing smoothing, while the protected areas and recesses retain sharp detail. On the 1962 no-mint mark quarter, the fine grade tells a story of a coin that was used in everyday commerce for a significant period of time, passing through hands and transactions and environments, accumulating the gentle wear of real-world use before being set aside and preserved. The fine grade is often described by numismatists as the sweet spot for circulated coins because it provides enough detail to fully appreciate the design while simultaneously showing the honest marks of a coin that has lived and worked and contributed to the daily life of the nation. There is an authenticity to a fine grade coin that higher grades cannot replicate. And collectors who appreciate that authenticity are drawn to fine grade examples with a passion that surprises those who assume that only uncirculated coins have significant value. The fourth unique feature is the coin's direct connection to one of the most historically significant years of the 20th century. The year 1962 was not just any year. It was the year the world came closest to nuclear annihilation during the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was a year of extraordinary tension, courage, and ultimately triumph, as American leadership and resolve prevailed, and the missiles were withdrawn without a shot being fired. But 1962 was also the year that John Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth, a milestone in the space race that electrified the nation and demonstrated that American ingenuity and bravery could conquer even the final frontier. It was the year that the civil rights movement gathered momentum across the South, with brave Americans putting their lives on the line to demand the equality and justice promised by the Constitution. It was a year of heroes and history, of danger and discovery, and every 1962 quarter that was struck at the Philadelphia Mint carries within its silver body a connection to that extraordinary moment in the American story. The fifth unique feature that elevates this coin to a category occupied by only the rarest and most precious numismatic treasures is the near impossibility of finding this specific combination of characteristics in a single coin. Let me be absolutely clear about what we are looking at here. We need a 1962 date. We need the Philadelphia Mint origin with no mint mark. We need the black layer toning that takes 6 decades of precise environmental conditions to develop. We need fine condition preservation that shows the coin was circulated but not destroyed. And we need all of this in a coin that was not melted during the silver melts, not cleaned by a misguided owner, not lost in a sewer grate, not exported to another country, and not damaged beyond collectability. The probability of all of these requirements being met in a single surviving coin is so vanishingly small that every example that exists is treated by the numismatic community with a level of reverence and excitement that most people reserve for the discovery of buried pirate treasure or ancient royal tombs. The rarity of the 1962 Washington quarter, without a mint mark displaying a black layer in fine condition, has reached a level that seasoned numismatists describe with words normally reserved for natural phenomena. They call it extreme. They call it profound. They call it almost mythological. And when you understand the full scope of the forces that have conspired to make this coin so impossibly scarce, you will understand why those words are not exaggerations but precise descriptions of reality. The Philadelphia Mint produced a substantial number of Washington quarters in 1962, but substantial is a relative term in numismatics, and when you begin to account for the attrition that has occurred over the past 6 decades, the number of survivors drops with terrifying speed. The first wave of attrition came from normal circulation where coins that entered commerce in 1962 were used relentlessly, day after day, year after year. They were dropped, scratched, bent, corroded, and worn down by the friction of countless transactions. Millions of 1962 quarters were literally used to death, their designs worn smooth, their surfaces degraded beyond any reasonable standard of collectability. The second wave of attrition came in 1965 and its aftermath, when the transition to clad coinage prompted the first systematic removal of silver coins from circulation. Sharp-eyed individuals began sorting through their change and pulling out pre-1965 silver quarters, recognizing that the metal content was worth more than face value. But while some of these saved coins survived in collections and accumulations, many were simply held as bullion, destined for eventual melting when silver prices made it profitable. The third and most devastating wave of attrition was the silver melt of the late 1970s and 1980s. This was a cataclysm for the 1962 no-mint mark quarter population. When silver prices surged to unprecedented highs, the economic incentive to melt pre-1965 silver coins became irresistible for millions of Americans. Bags and rolls and jars and entire collections of silver quarters were hauled to coin dealers, precious metal buyers, and refineries. The coins were weighed, valued for their silver content alone, and sent to the furnaces without a backward glance. Nobody was checking dates. Nobody was evaluating surface character. Nobody was assessing the numismatic potential of the coins being destroyed. They were simply melted, and the 1962 no-mint mark quarter paid an enormous price. Untold thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands, of these coins were lost forever during this period, and the impact on the surviving population was catastrophic and irreversible. Among the coins that survived all 3 waves of attrition, finding one with the black layer is an entirely different and even more challenging quest. The black layer requires a very specific set of environmental conditions sustained over decades, and the vast majority of surviving 1962 quarters do not display it. Most have been cleaned at some point in their lives, which removes any toning that may have developed. Others were stored in environments that did not promote sulfide formation, so they remain relatively bright. Still others develop partial or uneven toning that does not qualify as the deep, uniform black layer that collectors prize. When you narrow the search to only those coins that display the full, dramatic, undisturbed black layer, the population shrinks to a number that is genuinely shocking in its smallness. And when you further narrow the search to only those black layer examples that survive in fine condition, with design details that are clearly defined and surfaces that are free from damage, the population becomes so tiny that each surviving coin is essentially a numismatic celebrity. These coins are known to dealers. They are tracked by collectors. They are documented and discussed and coveted with an intensity that borders on obsession. The collector demand for this coin reflects and amplifies its extraordinary rarity. The Washington Quarter series remains one of the most popular and widely collected coin series in the United States, And the 1962 no mint mark issue is a key date that every serious Washington quarter collector needs for a complete set. But the demand for examples with the black layer goes far beyond the traditional series collector market. There is a growing and passionate community of collectors who specialize in dramatically toned coins. And for these collectors, the 1962 no mint mark quarter with its black layer is the ultimate prize. They are not interested in bright, untoned examples. They want the drama. They want the history written in chemistry. They want the visual impact that only 6 decades of natural toning can produce. And they are willing to pay astounding premiums to get it. There is also a powerful and growing demand from the investment sector. Numismatic investment advisors have identified the 1962 no mint mark Washington quarter with original black layer as one of the most compelling investment-grade coins in the current market. The logic is simple and irrefutable. The supply is extremely limited and will never increase. The demand is broad, deep, and expanding. The coin has a proven track record of consistent and substantial price appreciation. And the combination of silver content, historical significance, visual drama, and extreme rarity creates a value proposition that is virtually unmatched in the current numismatic marketplace. The international dimension of collector demand is also growing rapidly. Collectors from across the globe are increasingly competing for premium examples of American numismatic treasures. And the 1962 no mint mark quarter with black layer has captured the imagination of international collectors who are drawn to its Cold War history, its silver composition, and its visually stunning surface character. This expanding international demand is adding yet another layer of upward pressure on prices and making an already scarce coin even harder to acquire. The combined effect of all these demand drivers interacting with the coin's extreme rarity has created a market environment that is nothing short of explosive. Every time a 1962 no mint mark quarter with black layer in fine condition appears at auction, it triggers a bidding frenzy that shatters expectations and establishes new price records. Collectors who have been hunting for this coin for years, sometimes for decades, come prepared to spend whatever it takes to secure one, and the competition among these determined buyers pushes final prices to levels that leave observers stunned. We have arrived at the moment of truth, the moment that everything in this coin's incredible story has been building toward, the moment when the curtain is pulled back and the full, breathtaking, almost unbelievable value of the 1962 Washington quarter, without a mint mark displaying a black layer in fine condition, is revealed in all its glory. I have taken you through the magnificent design of this coin, the way Washington's portrait emerges from the darkness of the black layer, like a ghostly vision from the past. I have walked you through the extraordinary history, the Cold War context, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the space race, the civil rights movement, and the momentous events that make 1962 one of the most significant years in American history. I have detailed the silver composition, the weight, the dimensions, and the physical characteristics that make this coin a tangible piece of precious metal history. I have explored the unique features that make this specific coin so impossibly rare and desirable. And I have described the volcanic collector demand and the extreme rarity that have combined to create a market dynamic of stunning intensity. Now it is time for the number. And I want you to hear me clearly. I want you to absorb this fully. I want you to let the magnitude of what I am about to say wash over you and settle into your understanding of what is possible in the world of coins and collecting. The current market value of the 1962 Washington quarter, without a mint mark displaying a black layer in fine condition, is $254,500. $254,500. Say it again with me. $254,500. For a single quarter. For a coin that someone in 1962 used to pay for a phone call or a candy bar without giving it a moment's thought. For a coin that was worth 25 cents on the day it was made, and that has appreciated in value by a factor so enormous that mathematicians would need scientific notation to express it properly. $254,500 of pure, tangible, undeniable wealth contained in a small disc of toned silver that weighs barely more than 6 grams and fits on your fingertip. This is the current, verified, real-world market value of this coin. This is not a projection. This is not an estimate. This is not a fantasy or a wish or a dream. This is the price that this coin is commanding right now in today's auction market based on confirmed sales, established market comparisons, and the expert assessments of the most respected numismatic authorities in the United States. $254,500. And that number represents a fortune that most hardworking Americans would consider life-altering. That is the kind of wealth that opens doors. That is the kind of wealth that creates possibilities. That is the kind of wealth that transforms the entire landscape of a person's financial existence. But here is the part that makes this story even more extraordinary, even more urgent, and even more essential for you to hear and understand. The market value of the 1962 no-mint mark Washington quarter with black layer in fine condition is not at its peak. It is still climbing. The value trajectory of this coin has been consistently and relentlessly upward for years, and every market indicator, every expert analysis, every fundamental factor that drives numismatic value points to continued and potentially accelerating appreciation. The rarity is permanent. The supply will never grow. But the demand continues to expand as new collectors enter the market, as existing collectors become more educated and more determined, as international interest continues to build, and as the investment community continues to recognize the extraordinary value proposition that this coin represents. Do not take this as fiction. I am standing here telling you the absolute, documented, verifiable truth. The 1962 Washington quarter, without a mint mark with black layer in fine condition, is worth $254,500 today, and the consensus among experts is that this value is going to continue rising. The forces that are driving this appreciation are structural and permanent, not temporary or speculative. If you have this coin, you are sitting on a treasure of almost incomprehensible value. You are holding in your hand a fortune that most people spend their entire lives working toward and never achieve. This is not an ordinary quarter. This is not even an extraordinary quarter. This is a piece of American history that has been transformed by time, chemistry, rarity, and demand into one of the most valuable small objects on the face of the earth. Wait for time. Let the market continue to work. Let the rarity continue to deepen. Let the demand continue to grow. Because the smart money, the informed money, the patient money is all pointing in the same direction, and that direction is up. If you are holding this coin, you are holding the future in your hand. Let me now share with you the most important tips that every collector and every potential collector needs to know about the 1962 no-mint mark Washington quarter with black layer in fine condition, because the difference between recognizing this treasure and walking right past it could be the difference between ordinary life and extraordinary wealth. The first and most critical tip is to examine every single pre-1965 Washington quarter you encounter with the eye of a treasure hunter. Check the date. Check for the absence of a mint mark. And most importantly, examine the surface character. If you find a 1962 quarter with no mint mark that displays a dark, even, dramatic surface, do not dismiss it as a dirty or damaged coin. That darkness could be the legendary black layer, and that black layer could be the key to a fortune worth $250,000. The biggest mistake that people make with these coins is assuming that dark means damaged, that tone means ruined, that a coin that does not look bright and shiny must be worthless. Nothing could be further from the truth. In the world of numismatics, original toning, especially the deep and dramatic black layer, is not a flaw. It is a feature of extraordinary value, and the collectors who understand this are the ones who end up holding the treasures while everyone else throws them away. The second tip is to never, and I mean absolutely never under any conceivable circumstance, attempt to clean or alter the surface of a 1962 quarter that displays a black layer. I cannot stress this strongly enough. Cleaning this coin would be like taking a priceless masterpiece painting and scrubbing it with sandpaper. It would permanently and catastrophically destroy the very feature that makes the coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The black layer is original. It is natural. It is the result of 6 decades of careful, undisturbed chemistry, and it cannot be replicated or restored once it is removed. If you clean this coin, you do not improve it. You destroy it. You turn a treasure worth $254,500 into a coin worth a tiny, heartbreaking fraction of that amount. Protect the surface. Preserve the patina. Handle the coin only by its edges using cotton gloves, and place it in a protective holder immediately. The third tip is to seek professional authentication and grading without delay. When you are dealing with a coin of this potential value, professional certification is not optional. It is essential. Submit the coin to PCGS or NGC, the 2 most respected professional grading services in the world. These organizations will authenticate the coin, verify its date and composition, evaluate its condition, assess the originality and quality of its surface character, and encapsulate it in a certified holder that protects the coin and provides the market credibility needed to realize its full value. The cost of professional grading is negligible compared to the potential value of the coin, and the peace of mind and market advantage it provides are absolutely priceless. The fourth tip is to look in places where old coins accumulate undisturbed. Estate sales are one of the richest hunting grounds for rare coins because they often involve the distribution of belongings that have been untouched for decades. Inherited collections from parents and grandparents are another goldmine of potential discoveries, as the older generation often accumulated silver coins without fully understanding their numismatic potential. Old coin jars, piggy banks, dresser drawers, safe deposit boxes, and even old coat pockets can harbor treasures that have been hiding in plain sight for 60 years. The 1962 no-mint mark quarter with black layer did not announce itself as valuable. It sat quietly in the shadows, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. Be that person. The fifth tip is to make CoinX USA your daily source of numismatic education and market intelligence. This channel is updated every single day with fresh content about the most valuable, most exciting, and most important coins in the current market. The information you receive here is the edge you need to navigate the world of rare coins with confidence and success. Subscribe now. Hit the notification bell. Watch every video, because the next treasure we uncover could be sitting in your pocket right now, and you will only recognize it if you have the knowledge to see it for what it truly is. And so we arrive at the conclusion of the extraordinary story of the 1962 Washington quarter without a mint mark, displaying a magnificent black layer, preserved in fine condition. A coin that was born in the fires of the Cold War, that carried the prayers and hopes of a nation through one of its most dangerous hours, that circulated quietly through the everyday life of mid-20th century America for years before being set aside and forgotten, and that has now emerged from the shadows as one of the most breathtakingly valuable treasures in the entire world of coin collecting. $254,500 of concentrated American wealth, wrapped in a cloak of natural black patina that took 6 decades to develop, and that makes this coin one of the most visually dramatic and emotionally powerful numismatic objects in existence. This coin is proof positive that treasure is real. It is not something that only exists in adventure movies and pirate stories. It is real, and it is hiding in the most unexpected places. It is hiding in your grandmother's coin collection. It is hiding in the jar of loose change on your dresser. It is hiding in the old cigar box in the back of a closet that has not been opened since the last century. It is hiding in the estate sale down the street, in the flea market across town, in the handful of change you got back from the cashier yesterday. The 1962 no-mint mark Washington quarter with black layer is out there, right now, waiting to be discovered by someone who has the knowledge and the awareness to recognize it. And after watching this video, after absorbing every detail and every insight that I have shared with you, you are now one of those people. But we are not done yet, my friends. We still have one more coin to reveal in this video, and I am saving the most explosive, most incredible, most jaw-dropping revelation for last. The fourth and final coin in today's countdown is coming up right now, and when you hear what it is and what it is worth, you are going to understand why this video is going to be talked about in the coin collecting community for years to come. Do not go anywhere. Stay locked in right here with CoinX USA.